Hello and welcome back to the Scaleups and Hypergrowth podcast with me, Marcus Kauke. Today, my guest is Chris Dudridge, who is Managing Director of UK and Ireland for UiPath. Chris, welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm really well, thank you. Would you mind giving the audience a quick 90-second rundown on your career to date?
Yeah, absolutely. So currently UK MD for UiPath, which is an automation vendor. So my history is I've probably spent the largest portion of my career working in sort of ERP, payroll and HR software, and joined UiPath a little under 2 years ago. My sort of history to date has really been delivering large-scale, transformations of organizations' financial platforms to essentially manage everything from CRM through to delivery of invoice. But ultimately, that was always using sort of what I would classify as legacy ERP tools into specific sectors. I was actually completely unaware of the world of RPA that I now find myself in the world of automation, some sort of 2.5 years ago. But it was very quick how the sort of market came about, and actually the pull that it had in terms of what automation and the tools that can be deployed can actually deliver in terms of return on investment to businesses. So I joined UiPath tail end of 2018 to lead the enterprise sales division, so focusing on customers who are looking to adopt RPA technology and deliver automations across everything from their financial back office, using ERP technology, through to their full supply chain management, through to their entire customer experience. So it's brought me into this world. I was very fortunate to be promoted into sort of running our focus across both customer acquisition, but as well as our customer success, pre-sales, marketing, and all of the other parts of the business that you'll imagine we have to ensure we deliver exceptional customer experiences. But the one thing I'd say is in those last 2 years, it's felt like 10. And I could ever have found myself fortunate enough to be working within. And again, very lucky that I'm working at UiPath, which I believe is the heads and shoulders above the rest in terms of the culture, the focus on our customer journeys, and just frankly, our mission statement to deliver to the market.
I'd like to pick up on that because it sounds like you've had to spin a lot of plates and then hire people to spin the plates for you. How have you managed that transition so that it didn't turn into a shitstorm? Because in my experience, finding the right people seems to be utterly critical.
It's tough. I mean, the biggest thing we have to consider is that when you're part of a rocket ship startup that is growing at the rate we are, acquiring...
What rate are you growing at?
But I think depending on how you analyse it, it's in the thousands of percent year on year. When you consider, we started 5 years ago at a relatively low footing and are now in excess of 400 million in ARR turnover. But, obviously year on year, that growth sort of you'd expect it to sort of peter out, but we're still seeing, phenomenal growth from quarter to quarter, year on year in terms of how we're going. But of course, the density of the number of customers that we're acquiring is still accelerating. But of course, you can't still keep delivering thousands of percents of growth every year for the full history of your business. Otherwise, I think that would be ridiculous. But yeah, I think in the UK and Ireland, we're somewhere in the region of about 250% growth.
Wow, that's impressive. Building that team, what were the challenges that you faced doing that?
The first one I'd pick on is onboarding. When we're going out to acquire the best talent in the marketplace, we do really go out to look at that as the ultimate goal in terms of who we're trying to attract to work for UiPath. But actually, the number of people that we have within, let's just say, the sales organization have come from a really diverse, both regional, location. So many of our staff are across Scotland and Ireland and the Midlands and wherever else they live. They come from incredibly diverse backgrounds. So the onboarding is possibly the most challenging of all of the exercises that we go through. Aspirationally, I think we're pretty good defining the onboarding process for our people and training them on our products and services and platform. But that evolves so quickly that we need to make sure it's not just a one and done, that it's a constant level of aptitude that we sort of deliver in our onboarding process. I think we aspire to deliver a process where we can get people into the business and productive within a 3 to 6 month process, but realistically it's a much longer journey than that. So I think onboarding would be our sort of first big challenge once we've acquired those talents. The next part I'd say that's really key is around sort of delivering sustainable growth. Once those people are productive, we understand that they're able to control their own empires, verticals or objectives. and look at really key leading indicators that I think are important for them to keep focused on. And of course, the leadership team to stay focused on as well, which is, the net dollar expansion rate of the clients that they're working with, the number of new logos that they managed to acquire while still helping their clients scale and deliver value out of their engagements, not just buy stuff and hope that it works. And, I think it really all comes back down to that kind of obsession over our customers' journeys, not just selling them some licenses as we've done in history and hoping that they make use of them, but actually understanding what's their ultimate business strategy. And this isn't just a sort of trivial, superficial process. No. This is at a board level, what's the agenda for automation and what's the objectives expected? But importantly, who are you going to bring along for the ride? What departments and what divisions and what candidates are going to be approached? And importantly, how are we educating and bringing those people along to ensure that they can deliver the outcomes that they aspire to? So that sort of fits into that sustainable growth area. But very closely linked to that, maybe as the point 3 would be our customer success, because we've invested heavily in customer success, but that means very different things to very different companies. To us, it's a non-sales resource that is focused on, again, taking that baton from the sales representatives in terms of what our clients are trying to achieve, and then doubling down on ensuring we can deliver every possible outcome, with the tools that we have or the technology alliances we have across our platform and portfolio, and just make sure that ultimate goal is to make sure that we align to our customers' goals. And that is where success is measured. So it's not on revenue, it's measured on utilization of our technology, it's measured on their promoter score, the NPS score that they would give us. Ultimately, we want happy customers. We don't want that just to be an arbitrary exercise. We want it to be based on the results we've delivered. But we also want those people to be thought leaders at the C-suite to ensure that they're pushing them to deliver more from what they're setting out to achieve. And lastly, I'll come back to the 4th challenge I think that's worth referencing around, growing at this scale. We can't do it ourselves. We're a big business already and we've got a big market capitalization. But actually a large amount of that is because we're a partner-centric organization. So we have everything from the world's largest global SIs through to boutique-focused or kind of mid-tier partners that have their own specialisms. We don't just have to educate and onboard our own people. We have to educate and bring along to the ride a very large number of partners who are the biggest extension to our sales force and the biggest extension to our community you can imagine. So we really have to double down on not only educating them, but educating the market on what they should expect from them and everyone involved in the delivery of intelligent automation.
You've touched on a number of points that I'd like to build on. The first one is, how do you manage the transition between marketing, sales, customer success, and operations to make sure that the customer experience is seamless?
Yeah, it's a good question. And actually, we've probably reimagined that process about 3 times since my role in the business. Started off by kind of looking at our onboarding process of a new customer. But before that, we've got a lot of pre-sales muscle that is flexed in terms of ensuring that we can engage a customer, prove our value and proof out the aspect of the project they want to get internal comfort with. But when it turns into a real live engagement, we see that as being a seamless, fun enough, you'd be surprised to hear, automated process that involves our people at the right times throughout that cycle. And so that can include every division and department of our business, be it the academy team for onboarding and educating and training the people, be it our marketing team on bringing them to salient events or whatever it might be as part of that, or actually be it the account directors and customer success managers' responsibilities to ensure they're clear on where they should be in the cycle. We had a bit of inspiration, funnily enough, from Microsoft because they have an overarching program for all of their new customers, which is their T-36 program, which essentially means from the day they sign a customer, they have the next 36 mapped out in terms of how they engage that customer and how they bring the right assets to bear, or people, or whatever it might be. You can copy the best. So we've put in place it's not a 36-month cycle because our projects are often a little bit more aggressive and often a little bit more variable. So we put in a really tight plan around the first 100 days of where a customer would expect to be and ensure that we know that each of those has the right and consistent engagement plan that means that they get not just delivered a load of emails and assets and links to things that they can go and check out, but we actually verify that they're comfortable about where they're at in that cycle. It's something that evolves every day, but it's really important that we keep refining that process to make sure that with customer feedback, we refine it to ensure that it feels seamless, whether you're working with marketing, pre-sales, CSM, or the sales team.
That's excellent. So in terms of working with your partners, what obviously you might be able to see over my shoulder that I have a thing about channel. And that I was delighted to hear that you were partner-centric. I mean, tell me this, how much of your time of your channel managers is spent training your partners on how to sell UiPath products?
Well, let me turn that around, because ultimately I don't think they need help selling it. The benefits that can be delivered by automation are essentially the proof points. Many of these partners have their own sales teams, but actually, again, linked to my previous statement, they're one and the same thing. Our partners are an extension to our sales team. We don't want to influence the way that they have to do things. We want to educate how they could. When you think about these organizations, they're very different. So, channel sales is not new. And the way in which, our channel partners are sort of structured is not different to many others. There's some very large vehicles we work with who are often working at scale with some of the world's most recognizable brands and very large transformations. And there are some small boutique partners that focus in an industry vertical or with a particular skill set. And we don't see any difference between that community, because they're all singing our song. Most of them are product agnostic, but for those that engage in projects where UiPath is the weapon of choice, they're actually delivering an extension to the way that we would communicate with that customer. The biggest thing that we do with that channel community is around, as you say, that education point. We try to democratize learning of our product at the outset of the formation of our company, and we try to democratize the access to the skills needed to deploy it. What we can't democratize is the engagement with those customers in a competitive marketplace, where they still have to showcase their skill and their nuances that would mean that they are the right partner of choice to work with. And it's not for us often to kind of interfere in that process with the customers, because they ultimately need to qualify that they'd be setting out with a partner that has the right attributes and capabilities to deliver that. So ultimately, we accredit them and we verify that there's a high level of aptitude and quality within that partner community. And we get right behind ensuring that if there is any deficiency in awareness or learnings or just access to our technology ahead of them being released into the market, that community is the first to be aware that we have tools to do the job.
So in terms of the amount of time your UiPath channel managers spend with partners, helping them to be successful, program for that?
Yeah, so we're all channel managers. We're all partner managers within UiPath. We do have a channel team, which is fantastically run, but it's a global program. We have local representatives that work slightly differently, depending on the partners that they're working with. But I would just state that every single person, be it a seller, be it a pre-sales person, is a partner manager. So we need to focus on partner enablement and helping partners if there's any deficiency, or importantly, showcasing the ones that are doing amazing stuff. Now, frankly, some of our partners come up with the most innovative and the most transformational ideas that our customers want to embrace. We're a technology company that delivers product and ways to get more out of their automation journeys. But yeah, I think hopefully that answers the question. But we all work to make sure that our partners are probably of the utmost importance to how we engage our customer base.
Well, that's encouraging to hear. In terms of the qualities that you look for around habits and values within your sales team, because it sounds to me like you've got some very mature salespeople who need to be able to really get into the meat and gristle of the businesses into which you sell and their plans. So they really need some really good, solid business acumen. What are the values and habits that underpin that account for your success?
So the attributes we look for is people that put customer at forefront of their obsession. I love it no more than when one of my sales team can articulate implicitly, almost as if I was being replayed, the C-suite agenda, what that customer is trying to achieve and why. Right. And so discovery and the detail that those sellers have in understanding that they're not just selling tin, or they're not just selling a product that has a box on it that describes what it does. we're not actually selling something typically that has a statement of work that says these are in scope and these are out of scope. We're building long-standing relationships with our customers that have quite volatile and likely very quick moving changes in terms of how they're going to utilize and work with us as a partner. But if I can get salespeople and pre-sales people and everyone within the business being stupidly curious about exactly why we're embarking on those journeys with customers, then we're in a great place, frankly. And so it's that customer obsession, that curiosity lever. If I have that, doesn't matter the demographic of that person, be it 24-year-old inside salesperson or be it someone in their later stages of their career that's worked in many different technology companies that can really appreciate the challenges of green screen technology and what MS-DOS actually is. We get a great balance, but it's customer centricity that matters.
Those of you who are listening, I'm grinning from ear to ear hearing this. This is just music to my ears. Okay, so Chris, tell me, what are the four most common questions you get asked about managing and developing a hyper-growth technology company?
I think we probably covered those in terms of the sort of the four key things that we were talking about at the beginning, but I'll sort of repeat them in sort of bullet fashion, which is the onboarding and executing that at scale with industrialized approaches that deliver consistency to the way in which our sellers are educated is key. We can't bring someone in and just hope they'll get it. We have to bring them in and know that they'll be able to understand, learn, and then take that message to their customers while still learning every day. We do things such as like quarterly readiness training, which I think are fantastic from our enablement teams, which just mean that when we release, like we have done with our latest product set, not just modules, but 4 new large areas of automation and technology platforms that are quite complex, but actually incredibly pervasive in their deployment, that everyone understands what they do and how they can help. Ultimately, the people that come in, I talked about customer success, customer obsession, people come in with that mindset and they maintain it ad infinitum. And also, I would say that we talked about this delivering sustainable growth. People that understand that it's not just about landing a few logos and then going home and celebrating those. It's about building long-term valuable partnerships with customers that might start small, but we want them to grow. That's around kind of net dollar expansion rate, leading indicators of where those customers are going. They're not stagnating. That only comes from education and awareness that's ahead of time. It comes back again, I sound like a broken record about obsessive customer experience and obsessive understanding of those customers' journeys. Again, sorry to be repetitive, it's the education of the market and the partners, which is an always-on campaign, which should never be turned off, which if you have those 4 components, it means that what we created, or sort of what Daniel, our CEO, created when he formed this business around some pretty basic concepts around screen scraping technology and using computer vision to manage and remove manual, repetitive, mundane work from the world, where that started to where we're at now, are thousands of miles apart. But because our team have been brought on that journey and consistently learning about how our product can make a difference to businesses large and small across our region, that matters. And if you can get those attributes, I think there's more than 4 in that answer, but if you can get those things built into the sales culture, you've kind of won the war.
Fabulous. So tell me, what are the 3 questions that people should ask but don't?
I love this question. I would turn it around to the first one I like is, what do we care about at UiPath? We love celebrating winning business with new customers. We love celebrating, all the stuff you'd expect within any sales organization. But actually, what we love the most, and I think it's born into our culture, is where we really make a difference and where our technology makes a difference to people's lives. So we've recently done some work to transform some aspects of healthcare, which include, at the moment with this COVID crisis, it's very pertinent, but we were already doing work in accelerating cervical screening programs to increase the speed in which we can address those that have not had cervical screening sessions in the UK and Ireland. And so we're not doing anything on the actual physical screening side. We're dealing with the manual paperwork that comes out of all of those exercises, and we're accelerating the identification of who hasn't within a certain time frame had the right level of screening. We've done work with the Mater Hospital out in Ireland, which has helped them accelerate the speed in which they can deliver COVID diagnosis, which of course is massively important at the moment. But it's not just stopping there. We've actually delivered the tools that will mean that we can accelerate the STD screening, other kind of seasonal diseases or novel viruses, and actually work in that kind of arena. If we can deliver something, and I'm answering my own question here, obviously, we can deliver stuff that we really care about and that transforms people's lives, that matters. And that is what we care about.
Lovely. And are there any other questions that people don't ask you, but they really ought to?
Yeah. Why does our culture matter? Is the second one I jotted down on my pad.
Very good.
I come from a background of selling into the HR sector, so I'm very comfortable with creating a mission statement as a business and ensuring that we recognise how our employees reflect our culture, and actually verifying that as part of the performance management process or employee review. We have a really interesting number of tenets, that are around, the way we want to operate as a business. But culturally, we believe in things like being humble, being bold, and being fast. And those things are quite funny because they need to be defined and explained. But being humble doesn't mean being meek and meager. It's a mindset state that understands that we're not religious being that can come in and solve every single problem in a business. But we really want to understand with humility where we can help and how. We don't want to be arrogant and sell capability and be dismissive about people not embracing that. We want to understand how we can get people to the goals that they aspire to deliver while still staying humble. But our cultural values that are really hard pushed into us from day one of joining UiPath sort of create that barometer that matters to how we recruit, how we maintain, and how we think about how we communicate with everybody. I really believe they are a good thing that separates us from other people that operate in the market.
I remember asking a very bland question to Dr. Stephen Covey years ago, and he came back with a watershed moment response, which is the greatest among us serve the most. And I think that's what you're describing there. It's a culture of service. You help other people get their needs met. In turn, your needs get met, but you put them first.
Our success is their success. That's exactly the attitude that manifests. Yeah, absolutely. And to give you three, because you asked for three,
yeah.
I'm here to serve, as you know. Is this really interesting question in new industries like RPA or intelligent automation is sort of where do we start versus where do you want to start? It's funny, actually, it links really closely to that service piece. Is I think we want to make sure that people understand that they're not here just to take orders and just say yes. There's no part of me that would hate anything more that we have yes men or yes women within our business that just go and do what's needed. The cultural pieces that we deliver also kind of allow people to challenge, to be blunt, to be quite forthright sometimes in making sure that we don't just say, okay, if that's what you want to do, then off we go and deliver it. But we know what the results might be, and you're going to get a bit of a shock at the end of it. One of the things that people should often say, rather than this is where we want to start with automation, is we have a lot of wealth of experience within our market sector, and we have a lot of anecdote and experience of other scenarios where things have worked and things have failed. I think we're in a really good place where we'll often challenge the status quo of saying, this is what you've told us you want to do, so we'll just do that. The thing I'd love people to ask me is, what's your opinion on where we should start? Because we've seen that organizations have set out with a C-suite agenda to deliver automations that have a number of different connotations to them. Some that might be for customer experience needs, some that might be for employee experience, some that might be for removing risk and increasing compliance, and some might be just help us transform our digital platforms and accelerate our digital transformations. All of those routes have different paybacks. Some of them are softer. They're about happier employees and happier customers, which doesn't always have tangible ROI or metrics that you can easily apply to it. And some of them have much bigger return on investment and far more explosive return straight out the gate. And it's really about understanding. If you ask us where we should start, and there's a theme of that conversation, I think we can accelerate people's understanding of where they should rather than where they want to, if that doesn't sound too vague.
Not at all. I think salespeople's job is to challenge the customer and to tell them the truth even when they don't want to hear it. And if the salesperson doesn't do that, they do their customers a monstrous disservice, because you're the expert in what you do. They're expert in their business, but they probably haven't got a clue. I mean, for most of these people, I suspect it's their first foray into RPA. And even if it isn't their first, when they're starting to roll this out across their entire organization, what they're looking for is a leadership and a safe pair of hands. So any salesperson who doesn't do that, I don't think is really fit for purpose. What are your thoughts?
It's a tough one because I would say it takes all types. There are, kind of hit the nail on the head is in terms of what we expect people to do and what they should do. That would be perfect, right? If you always got everyone to do what you wanted them to do. I have to say, without kind of discrediting my previous statement about, we want people to be curious and experiment and do things differently, you have to give people a bit of time, often when they come into the world of something new like RPA, to settle in, to understand their pattern of work, the new way of engaging with people. And ultimately, I hate going back to old-fashioned analogies, but, the 2 ears and 1 mouth scenario. So there's a lot of learning that goes into what we do. And if people come in with a misplaced level of confidence that they get it already, that they're going to just come in and start selling, not listening. I'm kind of long enough in the sales game that I've fallen foul of this in the past, where fake it till you make it, bluff your way out of a challenging scenario. It's worked very well for many people for many years, but actually it doesn't anymore. If you don't truly understand it doesn't have to be a customer, but what anyone is looking to achieve, what motivates them to be having that conversation, be it a partner looking to partner with you, a technology company looking to work in collaboration with you, or a customer that is telling you, we want to achieve this, and you don't listen to that and turn that into an action plan of how we can showcase that, or say, no, we can't do that, you've got the wrong skill set, frankly. That's something I'm very careful to make sure we balance.
How much time do your managers spend coaching their people?
Oh, that's a daily. Our management structures, we have regional vice presidents focused on the different sectors of the market. We've segmented our market to make sure we have our largest global and strategic clients sat in one team. So they would have a few number of accounts that are scale clients, and we're helping them go from large, us already being a very large user of our technology, to being an even larger user of our technology with kind of different plays around utilizing our platform. We have our enterprise acquisition model, we have inside sales, and we have focus on public sector. Each of those RVPs spend probably, I'd say, a good 50% of their day coaching individuals, not just on deals, to use the kind of the brutal word, deals, which I hate, but actually coaching them because they have a broader view of all of their teams doing different things, but they're seeing the best of those rise to the top. They're sharing information as well as coaching. You should look at insert name in terms of what they're doing to scale out, insert customer name, because that information is often lost. And if we don't have an appreciation for how important coaching is, and also if we don't have a culture of coachable people, then you kind of lose that equity of experience and learnings. So I'd say, to answer your question, probably 50% of their time is used on sharing that information.
I'm really curious because this is something that many managers struggle with. How do you look for that in the recruitment process?
You think about it in people's communication style. If they're open to asking the right questions, I mean, we've all interviewed people, and at the end of that interview, you ask that famous question: any questions for me? And you get one of 2 different types. One that goes, no, I'm waiting for you to say, I've got the job, let's move on. You've got those that will say 5 or 6 really well thought out questions about things they don't know about and they want to be familiar with. And they'll also close out with a request for feedback. How did you think this went? Do you think I'd be suitable for the role? Did I hit all of the points you look for? And often they'll invite you to say, well, you were great here, but I didn't really understand this and blah, blah, blah. Actually, that is your qualifier. People that sort of try and just bulldozer through, get it over and done with, and hope is a great word, hope that they've done enough, versus the people that are constantly curious about whether or not they did the right things, or whether they hit the right notes, or they're not clear or unsure on exactly what that question was about and where they need to do and what this would need to look like and how many of these that they need to have to hit their goals. Those are the people, the curious, interested, most importantly, coachable people.
I interviewed Colin Ferguson for a previous episode, and he said that he's happiest when a salesperson comes in and treats it like a sale, and they take control and they manage the process. They do discovery, they do find the pain, and they sell themselves into it. It's so rare that happens, which again, I mean, 35 years in sales, and I'm still surprised that that doesn't happen. It's such a disappointment.
Absolutely. And do you know what I'd add to that is I often find that the people that stand out the most are the people who disrupt your interview flow. So if you've got a predefined process to go through and make sure you verify each on their merits in a sort of a very structured way, and someone disrupts that because they offer valuable rabbit holes to descend into, and you find it becoming conversational, they're the people you want to talk to in life. Forget the fact that people buy from people analogy that will come out there the strongest. But actually, if you find yourself having a good conversation with someone that hits all the right notes and actually it meanders a bit during your structured interview, that they are the people you want to be working with.
Excellent. On that note, let's move on to wrapping up. Yeah. What are you being influenced by? What are you watching, reading, listening to that's really caught your attention and you think other people should pay heed to? I
could go on here for a long time. I definitely would test my 2 ears and 1 mouth by just waffling on. I wrote them down because actually it was a great question. Long term, I've been a Sandler training methodology, a sponsor. I think that Sandler is common sense selling, but actually, even though it's actually now quite old-fashioned in terms of its the collateral and the data, it's just always been, for me, the best way of thinking about how you do very intelligent discovery, questioning, and you think about an engagement with the client without rushing to the outcome you're looking for. Sandler methodology is the best common sense methodology that you could deploy. That said, we use things like MedPick. We use a bit of Spin, a bit of Miller Hyman. We actually had a company called Force Management deliver something called Command of the Message to the entire UiPath sales team. But actually, it's just the best of all of the methodologies that kind of consolidate so that everyone speaks the same language. So I'd say that from a sales professional perspective, those are big influences. But I hate to leave without saying Sandler is one that's great. Plug to the analysts. Gartner, IDC, Everest, all of the market analysts are fabulous. We ingest a lot of their thoughts on the market. It encourages us as a business because they have a great futurist view on the world, and it kind of plays very nicely to what we're thinking of investing in. Trends like hyper-automation, that they actually put some meat on the bones on. They're brilliant. But actually, they've all moved to doing things like G2 Cloud has delivered. So voice of the customer to really benchmark whether the stuff they write about is actually valid. And so the voice of the customer and the peer reviews, just brilliant. The way that the analysts have stepped into true advisory roles that they probably wavered from over time, they're fantastic. I'd say that things like Gavin Jackson, my boss, who's ex-Amazon Web Services, and now obviously leads UiPath across EMEA, brought with him some of Jeff Bezos's kind of mentality around Amazon. That's where the kind of obsessive customer journey stuff has crept in. It's not changed the game in a kind of an overly difficult way. It's just got us thinking about the right things, and customer obsession is at the forefront of that, and we should never forget about it. Microsoft, I think Microsoft are a fantastic barometer on where they're investing in the market and what they're doing. I'm actually talking about more historically. You look at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and think about the culture that UiPath is trying to create. Just looking at what Bill created and what he and Melinda are now doing for the world in terms of investing in things that really matter. I can't get enough of what Bill and Melinda Gates are doing. They just captivate me. Amazing.
Have you been watching Inside Bill's Brain on Netflix?
Honestly, it was fantastic. But the thing that blew me away is I think I read about a book every 3 months, and I definitely have long periods of where I don't get engaged in it. But I heard he was reading 7 or 8 books a day. And when Melinda packs his reusable bag full of about 20 books, and then him saying, when he's in a room with specialists of every different industry sector, he often knows more than they do about it. I think, I've definitely got a lot of learning to go. So, they're amazing.
Have you read Tiffany Bova's Growth IQ? Tiffany, Tiffani, Bova, Bova, Growth IQ.
I haven't, no.
That's well worth to read. And it's 10 different models for achieving scale. And Amazon's done all 10. It's the only one that has. So it's certainly worth a read if you're a Bezos fan.
The beauty of those kind of things, and it kind of goes back to that EQ, I'm guessing, comment around emotional intelligence as well. That's the kind of stuff that I think everyone's focusing more on. We didn't really talk about it around the people, but that's a given. But I love understanding the way people structure assessing that. That's fantastic.
Two others I think you'd enjoy. The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. Fabulous title. So The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham.
Why do you say The Road Less Stupid to me? That sounds
Well, wait for the next question. Then Principles by Ray Dalio. I think you'll enjoy all three of those.
Well, I've jotted them down, but luckily I can re-listen to this and make sure I actually add to my next reading objectives. I mean, the book I'm reading at the moment, which I dare to say I'm not far enough through to give anyone a book report on just today, but it's Let My People Go Surfing by the CEO of Patagonia. Again, you're probably getting the theme here. I'm a bit of a hippie when it comes to thinking about cultural.
I've got the hair for it as well.
Yeah, well, it's a great book by someone who's a reluctant business person. And I don't know if you know about the Patagonia brand, but it's not cheap, is the first thing to say. But ultimately, it's built by adventurers for adventurers. And it's the best analogy I can give to you about the theme of the book so far, which I think is great to translate into business, is if you've experienced it, you can be an expert or an advisor on it. And what's great about that, just when you try and turn that into any other business conversation, is if you try and go in and sell to a CFO or a CTO or a CIO or even C-1 horizontal business line, and you really don't know their world, then strap yourself in, listen, learn, research and learn, because there's nothing quicker than you can find yourself kicked out of someone's office. If you're trying to talk to the CFO about the challenges they've got with their receivables and the day sales outstanding metrics they're trying to aspire to on their goals, and not appreciate or understand what that means. And I learned that the hard way a lot of times by trying to bluff my way through conversations with people who know a hell of a lot more than me. So that this book is a great barometer on thinking about, how you can take real world experience and translate that into products, services, assets that people buy into because they know that you really understand why they've been delivered.
I think one of the greatest gifts David Sandler gave us within Sandler is the dummy curve. And if you really want a great sales role model, Columbo, no one ever expected to get caught, but he got them every time. And he is, without question, the best sales trainer there is. I always have my clients watch a couple of episodes of Columbo, one with the sound on and one with the sound off, so you can see his mannerisms. Because if you want to see someone who exercises genuine humility and non-threatening sales behavior, it's him.
I love the analogy because he's just brilliant at questioning, but also coaching. He's a great coach.
Absolutely. So tell me, you've got a golden ticket and you can go back and whisper in the ear of the idiot Chris, 23 years old. What would you whisper in his ear to avoid a lifetime of misery and self-sabotage?
Do you know what? I find myself being educated better by 23-year-olds telling me what I should be doing. A lot of stuff is written and I ignore it wholeheartedly around millennial culture and all these different things.
Complete crap.
Nonsense. It's different strokes for different folks, but we're now understanding what motivates younger people in the marketplace and in the workplace to actually want to stay loyal to that business and to deliver the results they're expecting. But there are a number of, we're trying to double down on doing some kind of initiatives to help with youth employment with a number of bodies that I won't reference on this call, but for us, that would be our passion, to help people that are trying to enter the workplace, navigate what is now a very challenging market to seek employment, but sustainable employment that gives them a long-term career or gives them at least a structure that they can follow. I wrote a quote down, which I remember my old Norwegian colleague used to say in lots of presentation, which has always stuck with me, which is only the dead fish follow the stream. And it, for me, is the best kind of visual analogy that you can put in place, which is you can swim against the currents and you can take a different path, but you have to have the ability to make those decisions for yourself, not just follow where someone else takes you. Aspire to go in one direction and have a goal, and aspire to have that goal set quite clearly as something you want to do, not have to. But importantly, if there is an opportunity for you to reskill, retrain, or take a different direction of travel that gives you something that's either accretive or dramatically incremental to your career, then take it. There's a little bit of hot news that I saw yesterday, which I was chatting about with our global CRO. I don't know if you saw that ISS have just announced, and they're one of the world's largest companies. They've just announced their new CEO, global CEO, hundreds of thousands of employees. And that man is 42 years old. Okay. Wow. If you need any more encouragement, if you're in your 20s and you've got an aspiration to accelerate through the ranks and do something you love and you do it well, there is no barrier to getting ahead in business. Age certainly isn't one of those. But you have to embrace every opportunity you're given and follow a course that is very heavy on your own drive against the goals you set out for yourself. But do not be a dead fish.
I'll give you another quote, which is a favorite of mine. It's a go-to from Mark Twain, which is, it ain't what you don't know that hurts you, it's what you know for sure that just ain't so.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a brilliant one as well, yeah.
Excellent. Chris, this has been really, really inspirational. And I'm delighted with the culture of service, humility, the emphasis on customer and partner centricity. Really fascinating. I mean, tell me, as a final question, what is it that you're struggling with? What are you wrestling with at the moment?
Again, shameless plug, but we've just released a new anthem, we call them. They're just the videos that, a minute and a half that capture the theme of UiPath at the moment. We've done a number of really good ones that you can find on YouTube. They're based around a theme. The first ones were the story of work, trying to articulate what we were trying to achieve as a business in terms of innovation, driving awareness of our product sets and all that good stuff. But they were marketing led, really powerful and fantastic at getting our message across in a minute and a half. But the latest one that we've just released, which is the UiPath Together video, which is around the biggest challenges we face as a business, but as businesses and as communities and as people. And sorry to make this not very timeless because it's a bit of a point in time statement, but the biggest thing we're struggling with is being together. My team are such a phenomenal group of collaborators ultimately. And we love nothing more than being in the office, talking about a customer challenge, working together, naturally going to the pub if we can possibly achieve that, to have a bit of fun as well as all of this work stuff. But we're missing that. And I think everyone in the industry is missing that togetherness, be it your families, be it your friends, be it, your girlfriends, girlfriends or boyfriends, if you don't live together and are forced to stay apart. That is true of businesses. You'll see in the video, if you get a chance to look at it, businesses are closing, people are up against it, and everyone's challenges are unique. But that for us is personified by the fact that as a technology company, we are very collaborative. So I can't wait, whilst I know we're not going to be rushing back into offices, to just at least have one or two occasions where we can be together with other people. That's the thing that I think we miss the most. The other challenges are natural within business. We need to sell stuff. We need to service our customers well. We need to make sure we achieve our personal and corporate goals. That's just noise. If I'm being honest with you, they're a constant, and we will always achieve those if we keep doing the right things. But having it at the moment be forced that we can't be together, that's the toughest bit, and that's the bit that I know no one can take away. And I know that we're all doing the right things for the health and safety of everyone in the world at the moment. And try not to be too much of a spirit guide here, but that is emotionally, what I think is hard as the managing director, representing those 100 and odd people and seeing them on Zoom calls. The dissonance that is created by not being able to be together is something that I can't wait to be able to resolve.
Excellent, Chris. Thank you so much. How can people get hold of you?
However you want to. I'm on every platform. I'm a collector of social media, but I'm on Twitter, Christopher Dudd. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me with my full name, as my grandma would call me, Christopher Duddridge. I think I might have changed that to Chris now, hopefully. You can email me, christopher.duddridge@uipath.com. You can even phone me because that number is found on my LinkedIn profile. But, ultimately, we've got a presence now on social media as UiPath. So we have our Instagram accounts, but I'm equally on there as well. Ultimately, if it's professional, stick it through LinkedIn. If you want to follow us and understand a bit more about the stuff we talked about today culturally, the UiPath Instagram account is a great place to go and see.
Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. It was really lovely talking to you. If there's anything else you need, I'm always here.
Thank you. This is Marcus Kauke signing off from the Scaleups and Hypergrowth podcast. If you would like to be a guest, or there's someone you'd recommend to be a guest, then email me at mcauchi@sandler.com or get in touch with me through LinkedIn. In the meantime, stay safe, be well, and happy selling. Bye-bye.